Furious Driving, proud to be supported by Diamond Bright, protecting, cleaning and caring for the Furious fleet and for yours, with 10% off using code FD10. Follow the links in the description below. Hello and welcome to Furious Driving, and today we have gone pre-war back to 1938 and this absolutely delightful piece of Art Deco austere beautifulness, the 1460. Now you might think I'm driving a Series 2 Wolseley, but don't be fooled, this is actually a Series 3. And it's an incredibly imposing old beast. You can see why the police were so fond of them back in the day. And you can see this car and its friends here at the Great British Car Journey.
And you can even drive the collection here as well, so check out the link in the description below.
And thanks to them for letting us drive it today. Now, to learn a bit more about this car and take it for a drive, stick with us, hit subscribe, hit like, and then on with the review. Hello and welcome to Furious Driving, and this slice of delicious pre-war slightly staid loveliness is a 1938 Wolseley 1460, part of the new, all new for 38, Series 3 Wolseleys. And I know I'm probably going to get comments saying I'm not saying Wolseley properly, but it's a surprisingly tricky name to say. Now, the Series 3 came out on the 27th of September 1938, and the 1460 sat squarely in the middle of the range, between the 1465 and the 1885. And styling-wise and engineering-wise, it was very much a rehashed, warmed-over Series 2. There were some significant styling details, though. For example, the number of chrome strips on the side of the engine. It now has 3, whereas previously it was only 2. Also, we do still have these wonderful, easy clean, pressed steel wheels, giving it a slightly newer aspect. But in terms of styling, it really couldn't be anything other than a late 30s British car from a quality brand. Look at these upright windscreens and that beautiful, imposing grille. And of course, the all-important light-up Wolseley badge on the front. Fantastic. And of course, the flying W, which you never forget the flying W. Now, one significant detail I'm sure you've already noticed is they've put the hinges on the wrong end of the door. It's suicide doors, both front and back, which means relatively easy access, although I'll show you how easy it is to get in the front in a second. But be very wary of falling out at speed. Now, twist the beautifully detailed door handle, and the door opens nice and wide, 90 degrees almost, but then this enormous steering wheel, this big Baker-like thing with 4 huge spokes, does make climbing in a little bit of an awkward effort, and if you get that wrong, it really does gouge into your legs quite hard. But listen to that slam. That is like an old-fashioned train door, isn't it? It's amazing. Now, inside the car, there's not a vast amount of room considering how big the car is. Those running boards out there are surprisingly wide. But in front of us, we have got a lot of good stuff. We've got all lovely timber everywhere. So the entire dashboard is wood. We've got this lower dashboard wood, lower T-shelf is wood as well. I would go and get the camera off the tripod, but honestly, you're very, very pushed close to it, so it does make it a tad tricky. We have got a number of amenities. We've got a sun visor, complete with a lift-out removable ladies mirror and this beautiful Art Deco little detailed holder. Even the hinges are slightly Art Deco. And we've even got air conditioning in the form of this little wind-out window. Well, so it's the entire windscreen, little wind-out window. Beautiful. In addition to the centre control for the air conditioning, we also have 2 windscreen wipers, which was actually something of a luxury in 1938, but they're individually controlled by these big, well, I think they're Bakelite knobs. Start and park with big arrows, so you know exactly what you're doing. Under those, we have a solid or big chrome ashtray on either side because 1930s. And in the middle, look at this delightful dashboard. This is absolutely beautiful. I mean, check out these delicious Art Deco fonts here. That's just so wonderful, that 3D shading on these wonderful, wonderful characters down here. Fuel, a clock, that's wrong, ampermeter, speedometer, and our oil pressure. And of course, we've got our various other little controls. There's the ignition key slot, panel lights to turn them on, off and on. We've got hand throttle, we've got our choke, we've got our light switch, which is a little control like that, and our fog light as well. Very cool. And of course, pop that in there because over here in the centre we have got 2 more controls. Indicators, which we're not too fussed about right now, but more importantly, horn for the horn test. Oh, that's a wonderful interwar year PARP with presence and power and panache. That that is in the centre of this vast, vast 4-spoke steering wheel, which feels like it's metal covered in Bakelite. That's a solid, solid item. You don't want to be messing with that. Other controls, we've got the 4-speed manual gearbox, which does have synchro mesh on it, and there's big chrome handled handbrake as well, where you squeeze the button on top rather than on the end to release it. We're also fully carpeted because luxury brand, and behind that these wonderful dark brown leather seats, which are, I think, original, judging by the condition and the quality of the hide. These do go back and forth, but they don't tip at all. And in the back we've got fairly sizable area for passengers, including a luggage net, and if you can see that on the back window, the string for it, there's even a sunblind to keep the harsh rays out of the rear, which can be controlled from the front of it. Climbing into the back, I mean, I was sharing with my camera bag, big opening, actually far easier to climb in the back than the front, a little bit low on the headlining. Step aboard. Oh, look at this. We are miles from the front seat passengers. Look how much legroom I've got. This is a limousine, basically. More wood cappings on the doors, big rear windows. This is a 7-light car, effectively. And an armrest in the middle as well, which pulls out. Padded leather armrest on the side. Lots of lovely detailing in the doors themselves. This car is just wonderful. Oh, what a wonderful place to be, and so much headroom. There's even a courtesy light here in the back as well. And not to forget, of course, the essential ashtrays, so the kids can have a quick fag on the way to school. Finally, for amenities, we've actually got a fairly decent boot, or a trunk, as it would have been just a few short years previously, with a flattened off thing with an external trunk stuck on the back. This, though, has a proper boot with a fold-down lid, which does make it quite usable and actually quite practical. There's your tea shelf. If you're looking for a tea shelf in this car, you have found it. Beneath that, oh, that's quite an interesting thing. That is the driver's side sun visor, which has unfortunately come off. It does have a clear green area, so you can look through for anti-dazzle if it's got headlights coming towards you. Rather nice. And below that, I'm not going to open it because you do need a key for it, in between the tail lights, and we've actually got our spare wheel locked in with a church key behind the number plate, with lovely old 1930s, obviously, black and silver. And check out the texture, if you can, of those numbers. Beautiful. Oh, climbing in, you have to make sure you've got your leg low to slide your left leg under the wheel before you begin. No seat belts, obviously, it's 1930s. Turn the key to get the ignition on, hit the starter with the clutch down, obviously, and we're ready to go. It's already warmed up, so don't worry about the choking things at the moment. Right, so we have got synchro mesh, so we drop into gear really nicely. It's a lovely smooth gear shift. This is that era of British cars, well, every car really. 1930s gear shifts were just delightful, they really were. Now, only 60 horsepower and pulling quite a lot of weight, so not the briskest car off the line. Let's see what the turning circle is like on this thing. In a big car park. Let's see if we can get even tighter than that. Wow, this thing turns literally on a sixpence. That's amazing. I'm in third gear. And it's still pulling bags of torque in this engine. Oh, this gear shift is just an utter delight. Now, Wolseley, as I'm sure you already knew, was founded in 1901 by Vickers Armaments and Herbert Austin. And long story short, they became a luxury car maker and were the biggest car maker in Britain, which is astonishing for a dead mark. However, by 1927 they had gone bust. And they were bought as a personal investment by William Morris, before merging them actually into Morris Motors themselves in the 1930s. And of course later on, as Morris themselves were conglomerated into the behemoth that was BMH, then BMC, then BL, it became part of that big thing, ultimately winding up in 1975 as a thing no more. So the driving experience of this, the Series 3 cars, is actually surprisingly modern for the late 30s. The production run ran from 1938 through until 1948. That's 10 years, but production was actually suspended during the war years themselves, so there's a bit of a gap in the middle when nothing happened. But they've are surprisingly modern feeling cars. As I say, the steering is heavy, but it's very direct and very accurate. There's no weird slop or play that you might expect of a car from so long ago. And in addition to that, the brakes, not the strongest things in the world, but they do pull the car up pretty sharply. And we have got synchro on this wonderful 4-speed gearbox, which makes life so much easier. We've even got, as you can see, electric wipers, which is a novelty for the time.
Under that long centre-hinged bonnet, there's a 55 horsepower 1.8 or 1818cc overhead valve straight 6 engine fed by twin carburettors. Weighing in at 1,397 kilograms and at 4.3 metres long, it could manage a 0 to 60 in 20 seconds and a top speed of 71 miles an hour. It could even manage 25 mpg, and underneath featured a clever jack-all hand-pumped lifting system for changing the wheels. In total, 5,731 were built before the 680 replaced it in 1948.
But the ride is actually surprisingly smooth and agreeable thanks to the very clever suspension system that Wolseley developed for this car. And it was called Wolseley phased suspension. It used cleverly tuned suspension settings and clever springs, or clever spring settings I should say, which took out the pitch and yaw of driving in the 1930s. And although I'm not driving at high speed around here, you can feel how it would be very easy indeed to hustle this thing along with pretty much no trouble at all. You can see why they were popular with the police force. It has that big, intimidating front end, the sharp steering for the time, 60 whole horsepower. Oh, you can see how the flying squad of the day, or whatever the equivalent was in the 30s, would have loved this. I like this car a lot. Well, thank you for watching. I hope you've enjoyed this ride out in this wonderful, wonderful piece of motoring history. If you have, please hit like and subscribe and head over here to the Great British Car Journey to see it for yourself.